I always thought I knew who my real friends were, until one of them tried to steal my future behind my back. It started with a single alert on my phone, and ended with a truth I never saw coming. I've always believed that friendship, real friendship, is something solid, not perfect, but dependable. The kind where you don't have to explain yourself all the time. That's how it was with me and Raj. We met during our first year of college, both clueless about everything, surviving on instant noodles and half-baked dreams. He was the loud one, the kind who filled silence with jokes. I was the quieter type, more observant, but somehow we clicked. We had this unspoken pact, got each other's backs, no questions asked. I helped him through a rough breakup once, and he stood by me when I lost my job during the pandemic. We shared everything, drinks, late-night drives, even passwords back when we were younger and careless. Raj was like the brother I never had, and for the longest time I never questioned that. But maybe I should have. I remember once a few years ago he joked about how I had great credit and that he'd borrow my identity if he could. I laughed it off. We both did. I didn't think anything of it. I mean, who actually does that? Looking back now, I can't believe how blind I was. There were moments, small ones, that should have made me pause, times he'd ask weirdly specific questions about my accounts, or when he'd glance at my phone screen just a second too long. But I always brushed it off. It's Raj, I'd tell myself. He wouldn't cross that line. I think I wanted to believe that some things in life were unshakable. That loyalty had its limits. That trust, once earned, wasn't something you had to constantly audit, especially not with someone who had seen you at your worst. But trust is strange like that. It doesn't shatter with an explosion. It cracks slowly, so quietly you don't hear it until it's already broken. If someone had told me back then that Raj would try to use my identity to take out a loan, I would have laughed in their face. He wouldn't do that. He couldn't. Except he almost did. And I only found out because of one small decision I made, months earlier, on a random Tuesday night when I activated something I thought I'd never need. An identity lock. Looking back, I wish I could say the signs weren't there. But they were. They just didn't scream, they whispered, and I wasn't listening. Raj had always been opportunistic. Not in a ruthless way, at least not at first. He was just good at finding shortcuts. If someone knew a guy who could speed things up, Raj was already on it. He had a way of bending situations to fit his needs, and he always got away with it. It used to impress me, honestly. I saw it as resourcefulness, not manipulation. But there were little things, scattered over time like puzzle pieces I never tried to put together. I remember one night, maybe 6 months before everything happened, we were having beers on my balcony. I had just finished setting up this new budgeting app, syncing all my financial accounts in one place. Raj leaned over, peering at my phone, and said, "Man, your credit score must be golden. You could get approved for anything." I laughed. "Maybe," I said. Then he added, "If I had your profile, I'd take out a big loan and flip it into something fast, double it." It felt like a joke, but there was something in his eyes, something too serious for a punchline. I shrugged it off, changed the subject. There were other moments. He once asked me how I set up my security questions, said he forgot his own and was just curious what mine were. He brushed it off casually, like we were just shooting the breeze. And then there was the time I caught him looking through a drawer in my place while I was in the kitchen. He said he was looking for a charger. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. The truth is, when you trust someone, your mind fills in the blanks in their favor. You don't look at them through a suspicious lens because it's exhausting to doubt people you care about. But the signs were there, not loud, not obvious, just enough to make your gut twist for a second, then settle. I think I didn't want to see what was right in front of me, because admitting something's wrong means you have to act on it, and I wasn't ready for that. Not yet, but I wouldn't have the luxury of ignoring it for much longer. Because soon, that trust I kept protecting would be tested in a way I never expected. It was a regular Tuesday, quiet, uneventful, forgettable. I had just wrapped up a long day at work. I work in IT support for a mid-sized firm, so most of my day is spent helping other people fix their problems. That day was no different. Printer errors, forgotten passwords, the usual chaos that somehow lands in my inbox. I was halfway through reheating leftover pasta when my phone buzzed. Just another notification, I thought, probably a spam email or some pointless app update. I didn't check it right away. Raj had texted earlier too, just a casual, "Yo, you free this weekend?" Nothing strange about that. We hadn't hung out in a few weeks. Life had been busy for both of us, but there was no tension, no weird energy. If anything, things seemed normal. But while I was focused on dinner and decompressing, something else was happening, something I couldn't see. Somewhere, someone was filling out a loan application. Name, mine. Social security number, mine. Date of birth, address, employment details, all mine. It's strange, really, the way betrayal can unfold without making a sound. There was no crash, no warning bell, just a quiet shift in the background of my life. A shadow moving where there shouldn't be one. That night after dinner, I finally picked up my phone and checked the notification. It was from my credit monitoring app, the one I almost didn't sign up for months ago. Just a bland little alert at first glance. New credit inquiry detected. Loan application attempt flagged. My chest tightened. I stared at the screen, blinking. I hadn't applied for anything, not recently, not ever. My mind immediately went to, is this a mistake? Then to, is someone trying to steal my identity? I tapped deeper into the alert. It had the name of the lender, a digital finance company, a well-known one, the kind people use for fast approvals. But the identity lock I'd set up had done its job. The application hadn't gone through, blocked before approval. That one click I made months ago, more out of curiosity than concern, had stopped everything in its tracks. I felt a surge of confusion, then unease. Who would even try this? I had no idea then that the answer was someone who had once called me brother. I stared at the alert for a long time, longer than I'd like to admit. My mind was trying to catch up with the facts like it didn't want to believe what I was seeing. Loan application. My name, blocked. It didn't make sense. It shouldn't have made sense. I double-checked the app. Maybe I had applied for something and forgot? No, I wasn't that careless. I hadn't even looked at loan options. My finances were stable. I wasn't in the market for anything. No house, no car, nothing. Still, I went through my emails, searched my inbox for anything I might have missed. Nothing. No confirmations, no inquiries, just the usual bills, subscriptions, and work updates. My gut started to twist. Whoever did this knew enough about me to get close enough to fill out a real application. This wasn't a random hacker halfway across the world. This was someone who had my information, details that most people wouldn't know unless I'd given them willingly or they'd been watching closely. That's when my mind started ticking through possibilities. Could it be a data breach? Maybe my info leaked from some old site I forgot I signed up for, but then I thought about the specifics. The address was recent, the employment listed matched my current job. It was too current, too accurate. This wasn't scraped off some dark web list. It was someone who knew me, someone who had access. I sat there, heart pounding, trying to push away the thoughts that were starting to form. I didn't want to believe it. The idea that someone in my own circle, someone I trusted, could do something like this, it didn't feel real. Still, I couldn't ignore the pit forming in my stomach. So I did something I hadn't done in years. I changed all my passwords, bank logins, cloud storage, even my old email accounts. I started checking my credit history line by line. I called the lender listed in the alert, pretending to be just a curious customer. They couldn't share much, but they confirmed the application had been blocked due to identity protection settings. No damage, not yet. But I knew deep down that this wasn't over. This wasn't random. And something told me that whoever did this was closer to me than I wanted to admit. I didn't sleep much that night. I tossed and turned, my mind racing through every possibility, every person I'd ever trusted. But one name kept floating to the top, Raj. I didn't want to go there. It felt like betrayal just thinking it. But the signs were starting to come together, like puzzle pieces that had been waiting for the right moment to snap into place. The loan application had used my current address, something only a handful of people knew. Raj had crashed on my couch for a week earlier that year when his apartment had a plumbing disaster. During that time, he saw my mail, my habits, probably even glanced at my wallet once or twice. We shared a Netflix account back then, and I remember I'd typed in my email and password right in front of him. I never thought twice about it. I sat at my desk the next morning, a cold coffee in hand, and opened my laptop. I started digging, not into the loan, but into Raj. I remembered he once used my computer to check his email when his phone had died. I pulled up my browser history from months ago. There it was, his email login. Stupidly, he'd never logged out. I hesitated, staring at it. This felt wrong, like I was crossing a line, but then again, hadn't he already crossed one? I clicked. His inbox was mostly junk, promo emails, unread newsletters. But then I saw a message with the subject line, "Your loan application with Bolt Finance." My heart stopped. I opened it. He'd used my name, my social, my job, everything. The only thing that gave him away was the fact that the confirmation email was sent to his actual email address. Probably a mistake. Maybe he thought it would still go through. That's when the truth hit me, not like a slap, but like a slow drop of ice in the gut. Cold, sharp, undeniable. Raj had done it. He tried to take out a loan in my name. And if I hadn't locked my identity months ago, I wouldn't have found out until it was too late, until the debt was mine to carry. I closed the laptop and just sat there, stunned. Hurt didn't even cover it. It was this strange mix of disbelief and humiliation, like I'd been tricked in a game I didn't even know I was playing. And the worst part, I still didn't know why. But I knew what I had to do next. I didn't rush into it. I could have exploded, called Raj immediately, demanded answers. But something in me held back. Maybe I needed to process it first. Maybe I just didn't want to hear the lies right away. Instead, I spent the day moving in silence. I changed every account. I locked down my credit further. I made a report just in case something else surfaced later. I even scheduled a consultation with a lawyer just to understand my options. There was no damage, not officially, but I didn't want to leave anything to chance. I wasn't being paranoid anymore. I was being smart. That night, I sent Raj a text. "You around?" He replied instantly. "Yeah, bro, swing by." I drove over, rehearsing the conversation in my head 100 different ways. Sometimes I'd imagine yelling. Sometimes I pictured him denying it. Other times I imagined him breaking down and apologizing right away. But I wasn't ready for what actually happened. He opened the door with a smile, like nothing had changed, like everything was still fine. "Man, you look tired. Long day?" he asked, stepping aside to let me in. I didn't sit. I stayed near the door. "I know what you did," I said quietly. He blinked, confused at first. Then something shifted in his eyes just for a second. A flicker, guilt, maybe panic, but it disappeared almost as quickly as it came. "What are you talking about?" "You applied for a loan in my name. I saw the confirmation email. The lender flagged it and the identity lock blocked the application." He didn't speak, he just stood there blinking. Then he scoffed, trying to play it off. "Wait, you checked my email? Seriously?" "That's what you're worried about right now?" I said, my voice flat. "Not the fact that you tried to screw me over." He shook his head, started pacing. "Look, I was desperate, all right? It wasn't gonna go through. I thought I'd cancel it before it processed. I wasn't gonna let anything happen to you. I needed the cash. I thought it could be quick." "You thought using my name was a quick solution." He didn't answer. I stood there for a few more seconds, looking at someone I no longer recognized. This wasn't just a bad choice. This was a betrayal. "I'm done, Raj," I said quietly. "We're done." Then I walked out. No shouting, no drama. Just silence, and the sound of something important breaking in both of us. The silence after that night was louder than any argument we could have had. Raj didn't text, didn't call, and I didn't reach out either. The damage was done, and I wasn't interested in hearing any half-hearted apologies or twisted justifications. I didn't need closure from him. I needed space for myself. Still, I'd be lying if I said it didn't haunt me. I kept replaying the friendship in my head. Every memory, every late-night conversation, every time we had each other's backs. It wasn't just the betrayal that hurt, it was the rewriting of history. I had to look at everything differently now, and it made me feel like a fool. What made it worse was that we had mutual friends. Not a ton, but enough for word to get around. I didn't tell anyone at first. I didn't want the drama. I didn't want the pity. But when people started asking why Raj and I weren't talking anymore, I told the truth. Their reactions were a mix of disbelief and quiet horror. Most couldn't believe it. "Raj, seriously, that doesn't sound like him." But a few, just a few, said something that stuck with me. "You know, now that you mention it, he always did push boundaries." Those words echoed in my mind. Push boundaries. Yeah, he always had. I just never expected him to push mine so far that it would break. In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into work. I spent more time with people I hadn't seen in a while, people who didn't ask for favors or dance around honesty. I started going on solo walks, clearing my head, sorting through everything. It wasn't just about Raj. It was about me. about how easily I'd ignored the warning signs, about how much of myself I gave to someone without realizing they didn't value it the same way. One afternoon, I got a text from an unknown number. It was short. "I'm sorry for everything. You didn't deserve that. I know I messed up." I knew it was him. I stared at the screen for a long time before deleting the message. Some people think closure comes from the other person. But sometimes, it's just a quiet moment when you realize you're no longer angry, just done. And in that silence, something inside me began to shift. Not into revenge, into rebuilding. Healing doesn't come in a big, dramatic wave. It comes in fragments, quiet moments, small choices. At first, I thought I'd just distract myself until the sting wore off. I stayed busy. Gym in the mornings, work all day, dinner with old friends, movies I'd never gotten around to watching. I filled my calendar like I was trying to outrun the memory. But the thing is, pain has a way of catching up when things go quiet. One night, I found myself staring at a group photo on my phone. It was from 2 years ago, me, Raj, and a few others at a camping trip. Everyone was laughing, arms around each other, beers in hand. That photo used to mean something. Now it felt hollow, not because the memory was fake, but because I had to question what part of it was real. That's when I realized healing wasn't about forgetting. It was about learning to carry things differently. So I started journaling, not pages and pages, just enough to pour out what I couldn't say out loud. I wrote about the anger, the betrayal, but also the guilt I carried for not seeing it coming, for trusting someone who didn't earn it. It felt strange at first, but over time, those words helped me make sense of everything. I also started seeing a therapist. I didn't go because I was falling apart. I went because I wanted to rebuild on solid ground. Our sessions weren't dramatic. Sometimes we just talked about boundaries, about how trust isn't something you owe, it's something you give, and it has to be earned again and again. One thing my therapist said stuck with me. Your story isn't about what happened to you. It's about how you choose to live after. That changed something. I wasn't just the guy who got betrayed. I was the guy who walked away, who protected himself, who didn't let it destroy his faith in everyone else. I started setting better boundaries, with friends, with work, even with myself. I forgave myself for trusting Raj, not because he deserved it, but because I didn't want to carry his mistake forever. And slowly, piece by piece, I started to feel like myself again. Not the same version, a little more cautious, a lot more grounded. But still me. By the time a few months had passed, everything felt quieter. Not in a sad way, just calm. The chaos had died down. My inbox no longer pinged with credit alerts. No more unexpected messages from Raj. No whispers from mutual friends. It was like the world had taken a breath, and so had I. I started to feel the difference in the way I walked through life. There was less tension in my shoulders, less second-guessing every decision. I was still cautious, sure, but it wasn't fear, it was awareness. I had learned to pay attention, to see people for who they were, not just who I wanted them to be. It's strange how betrayal doesn't just hurt, it rearranges you. Like someone picked up your trust and dropped it, and now you're trying to fit the pieces back in a way that still makes sense. I saw Raj once more. It was random, a grocery store. I turned the corner with a basket in my hand, and there he was, halfway down the cereal aisle, looking older, tired. He noticed me instantly. Froze. We locked eyes for maybe 2 seconds, long enough for 100 words to pass between us without saying anything. He gave a slight nod. I didn't nod back. Not out of anger, I just didn't need to. I walked past him, heart steady, and that more than anything told me I was okay. Later that night, I thought about that moment. How something that used to be central in my life, this person I once called a brother, was now just a stranger in a store. It made me sad for a minute. Not because I wanted him back in my life, but because it reminded me how fragile trust really is. But then I thought about how far I'd come. The version of me who once let things slide, who brushed off red flags, who made excuses for people. He wouldn't have walked away so calmly. He wouldn't have protected himself. That version would have stood in the cereal aisle, heart racing, unsure what to do. Now I knew exactly who I was. And I didn't owe anyone an explanation. The dust had settled. And for the first time in a long time, I could see myself clearly. It's funny how one small decision can change the entire course of your life. Months before any of this happened, I'd signed up for identity protection on a whim. One of those just-in-case things you do when you hear about a coworker who got their info stolen. I remember hesitating at the price. I almost didn't bother, but something in me nudged forward and I clicked Activate Lock. I didn't think much of it after that, until it became the one thing standing between me and a financial disaster. The silent gatekeeper that stopped someone I trusted from turning my life upside down. That lock didn't just protect my credit. It protected my future. I think about that sometimes, not just the literal identity lock, but the metaphor it became. Because after everything that happened, I learned how to set boundaries in every part of my life. I started protecting who I was, my time, my energy, my peace. I learned that not every friend deserves full access. Not every person should be handed the keys to your trust. People talk about forgiveness like it's this grand gesture, but for me, it came in small ways. Letting go of the bitterness. Choosing not to revisit old wounds. Learning to trust again, slowly, carefully, but without shutting myself off from the world. I'm not perfect. I still catch myself scanning for red flags, wondering if people are being real with me. But I don't carry that weight with resentment anymore. I carry it with awareness, with intention. Sometimes you only realize how strong you are when something tries to break you, and fails. That's what Raj's betrayal did. It hurt, yes. It cracked something in me, but it didn't destroy me. It revealed me. It showed me that even when someone close crosses a line, I have the power to walk away, to protect myself, to rebuild. And that lock, that small, overlooked setting on a random app, it was more than a feature. It was a reminder that I'm worth protecting. And from now on, I always will be.